Brandon Turns Wrenches, and I'm Brandon. And right here we have a 2014 Nissan Maxima, and today we're going to be knocking out the passenger side axle. Now let's tear into this. Now I need to take the wheel off. Wheel off. Right now we need to get this cotter pin out. It's what holds this axle nut cover on there, which, wow, someone already broke this thing off. It's not very good, but hey, it still does the job. We'll remove this little axle nut cover. Pop that bad boy off right there. So now we got our Ugga Dugga impact. We're gonna knock this axle nut off. Oh, like butter. Thank God for Milwaukee. Thank God for power tools. All right, so before we get started, I like to free up the axle so it's a little easier to get out. And just make sure that it slides out like no problem. This is Florida, we don't get a lot of rust, so we're good to go. Now we have two 21mm bolts that fasten on the caliper and caliper bracket. We'll swing this up and we'll hang it up top somewhere. We're gonna remove this clip off the brake line, so that way when we get the strut unfastened, it can be out of the way. Right here is the wheel speed sensor cable. We're gonna just unclip it from everything, get this off the strut assembly here. When you're doing an axle, you wanna get everything out of the way. This is the speed sensor here. I'm unclipping it, and then I'm going to unravel it from all the way around and just kind of let it hang on the ground. I don't want this thing getting snagged or torn. Now we can get these 21mm nuts and bolts off of the strut assembly. So I just wiggle them back and forth to get those bolts out. It's a little bit pain to get the bottom one, but this, I'll show you exactly why. This is exactly why you unclip all your wires and have nothing hanging, because once this pops out, it's completely free and it rolls over. And now we just gotta wiggle the axle out and kind of let it sit here. So the next two bolts that I need to get this whole axle out, they're 2/16s. They're deep inside the well here. We got the first bolt here. That came right out like butter. Let's reach in there and grab it. Now this is like a 10-mile reach. Oh yeah. There goes the first bolt. All right, and the second bolt, right there. So that thing came out as easy as the first one. I'll grab it out, and there we go, number two. All right, I don't know if y'all can see that, but at the end here, I have to beat this bar in here, and I have to beat the other end down there to get this axle shaft out of the whole transmission. Out with the old and with the new. And it's in. Okay, so now we can put these 16mm bolts back in here. Get this axle fastened back down. Got one side started by hand. Bolt number 2 is gonna get started here. It's tight. So now we're just gonna get the new axle started back in the hub. Just like that. You can see it coming out right here. In and out, in and out. You can work this strut back onto the knuckle here, and we'll get the bolts started. We'll get the bolts started in. Just push them on back through. So we'll get the nut on both ends. Just like that. Now we'll get our wrench and our impact, and we'll fasten these ones down. Nice and tight. Now we're gonna reroute the ABS wheel speed sensor. I'm gonna connect it all back up to the strut assembly here, the way it came, and get her unplugged back up to the top, so we don't have any issues or extra codes. Here's the clip here. Clip it back in, put it right back behind the plastic here, Now that we got the ABS wire set back up, we can put this caliper back on. Now, if you didn't mess it up or you got it shifted or anything, you can get the pads seated just right so they'll slide right back on this rotor. Come on. There we go. Get the caliper bracket bolts back in. Now we can fasten it down. Don't forget your brake line clip. You always want that put back on. All right, so the last step is to tighten this axle nut down. This one is 135 foot-pounds. The way that I like to do this is I take a flathead, I'll stick it in between the rotor and the caliper, and now we'll get this spun on by hand all the way down. We'll get our torque wrench here, and we'll do it until it clicks. Now we'll replace this castle cap and cotter pin. Stuff her on through. Once you get that cotter pin through, you're just gonna have to bend it. I like to take it, twist it up. So it's time to put the wheel on, but my client got her new tires put on yesterday, and you can see here that this stud is completely stripped out. I actually had some fun getting this lug off the wheel when I was getting it off. And so yeah, she's gonna end up having to take this back. We could put 4 on, but that's it. So time for the wheel. This is almost my favorite part of every job. Now that was a quick 350 bucks. Job well done.